Hello students, welcome. This is Dr. Chetna Kumawat and we are understanding dividend policy. In a previous lecture, we have discussed some dividend models like Walter's model and Gordon's model. In today's lecture, we will understand model, Modigliani and Miller model. Modigliani and Miller says that dividend decisions and retained earnings decisions do not influence the market value of the shares. That is, dividend policy is irrelevant for valuation. According to their observations, under conditions of perfect capital market, rational investors, absence of tax, discrimination between dividend income and capital appreciation, given the firm's investment policy, its dividend policy may have no influence on the market price of the shares. Model is based on the following assumptions. 1. There exists a perfect capital market. Number 2. There are no flotation or transaction cost. Number 3. There are no taxes. And number 4, further earnings are known with certainty. Arguments. The substance of approach is that the impact of dividend policy is offset totally by other means of financing. They argue that if the firm retains the entire earnings without giving any dividend, the shareholders' stock would have appreciated equal to the amount of retained earnings. On the other hand, if the firm pays the entire earnings as dividend to its shareholders, they would have enjoyed the same appreciation as they could get in retaining the earnings. Therefore, division of earnings between dividends and retained earnings has no relevance from shareholders' point of view, and the stock price is independent of such division. The model is expressed by the formula P0 is equals to D1 plus P1 divided by 1 plus KE. Here P0 stands for market price per share at the beginning of the period or prevailing market price of a share. D1 stands for dividend to be received at the end of the period. P1 stands for market price per share at the end of the period, and KE stands for cost of equity capital or capitalization rate. The market price of share, which is P1 at the end of the period, can be calculated as follows by the formula P1 is equals to P0 multiplied by 1 plus KE minus D1. An alternative formula is also there. By assuming that the fulfillment of desired investment due to dividend declaration is being done by issuing of new shares. In other words, Modigliani and Miller approach can also be explained as follows. NP0 is equals to n plus 1 multiplied by P1 minus 1 minus x whole divided by 1 plus KE. Here N stands for number of shares outstanding at the beginning of the period. M stands for number of new shares to be issued at the end of the period. P1 stands for market price per share at the end of the period. I stands for total net profit or earnings of the firm during the period, and KE stands for cost of equity capital. Number of shares issued at the end of the period, which is M, can be calculated by the following formula. M is equals to I minus x minus ND1 whole divided by P1. Here D1 stands for dividend to be paid at the end of the period. Criticism. MM approach has been criticized on many grounds, particularly the invalidity of his assumptions. For example, number 1, no perfect market. In the real world, there are many imperfections in the capital market. Perfect market does not exist. Number 2, taxes with different rates. There exists taxes with different rates for different types of income. For example, the tax rates for dividend income and capital gains differ. Number 3, presence of flotation costs. There are flotation costs and transaction costs involved in equity issues. The MM assumption of non-existence of flotation and transaction costs is not true. And lastly, uncertainty. One cannot be certain about the future investment opportunities and future earnings. It cannot be said with certainty that the firm will declare and pay dividends to shareholders at the end of the period. Again, the future of the firm may be uncertain. The funds may be invested in unprofitable projects, resulting in loss. Thus, the MM approach does not offer a valid explanation of the above proposition. So this was it with the dividend models. Let's take a quick recap of this chapter, dividend policy. In this chapter, we have understood the meaning of dividend and dividend policy, dividend decisions and dividend policy, essentials of a sound dividend policy like distribution of dividends in cash, initially lower dividend, gradual increase in dividend, stability, dividend out of earned profits, some factors affecting dividend policy, internal and external, namely nature of earnings, future funds requirements, liquidity of funds, shareholders' desire, control motive, and general state of economy, access to capital market, legal restrictions, contractual restrictions, and government or economic tax policies. Types of dividend policies like stable or regular dividend policy, constant dividend per share, constant percentage of net earning, advantages of stable earning policy, policy of regular plus extra dividend, policy of regular bonus dividend, policy to pay irregular dividend, policy of no immediate dividend, and forms of dividend like preference dividend, equity dividend, interim dividend, regular dividend, cash dividend, stock dividend, and scrip or bond dividend. So this is it for this today's lecture and for this chapter also. Thank you so much for your patience and learning.